Today, we're going to dive into one of the most famous lectures ever given, Russell Conwell's Acres of Diamonds. I mean, this thing was delivered over 6,000 times, and it all boils down to one single powerful idea, that your greatest opportunities, they aren't halfway across the world. They might be right under your feet, just waiting for you to notice. So, how does he make this point? Well, the entire lecture is built around this one incredible story, the parable of a farmer named Ali Hafed. All right, so let's meet our main character, Ali Hafed. He's a farmer in ancient Persia, and by all accounts, this guy is living the dream. He's got a huge farm, he's got money, and most importantly, he's totally content. He feels wealthy, and because of that, he's happy. But then a visitor shows up and completely changes his world. It's an old priest who starts telling him all about diamonds, describing them as these magical congealed drops of sunlight. He paints this picture of unbelievable wealth, the kind that could put Ali Hafed's kids on thrones. And just like that, poof, the contentment is gone, replaced by this burning need for more. Think about this for a second. Ali Hafed went to bed that night a poor man. Now, he hadn't lost a single thing. His farm was still there, his money was safe, but his whole mindset had flipped. This quote just nails it. He became poor simply because he became discontented, and he was discontented because he was suddenly terrified that he was poor. So what happens? Well, he gets completely consumed by this new obsession. He sells his farm, his prosperous, successful farm, leaves his family, and sets off on this global quest for diamonds. His journey takes him all over the place, through Palestine, across Europe, until finally he's in Spain, totally broke, dressed in rags, and in complete despair, he throws himself into the sea and dies. Now, you might think that's the end of the story, but it's not. In fact, Ali Hafed's tragic end is really just the setup for the lecture's real punchline. Which brings us to the big question, right? What in the world happened to that piece of land that Ali Hafed was so quick to get rid of? This is where the whole lesson really clicks into place. Well, one day, the man who bought the farm takes his camel down to a stream in the garden for a drink. And as he's standing there, he sees this weird flash of light in the sand. So he reaches down, picks up this little black stone, and sees what the story calls an eye of light, reflecting all the hues of the rainbow. You guessed it, it was a diamond. He and the priest go rushing back to that stream. They dig around in the sand and they find more gems. And then more, each one more incredible than the last. That farm, the very same one Ali Hafed sold for practically nothing, turned out to be the site of the legendary Golconda Mine, one of the richest diamond finds in all of history. And this is where we get the core message, the whole point of the story. As the guide in the lecture explains, if Ali Hafed had just stayed put and dug around in his own garden, in his own backyard, he wouldn't have died penniless. He would have had acres of diamonds. And that's the big principle right there. The whole idea of acres of diamonds is a metaphor, right? It's about how we so often look past the incredible opportunities that are literally right in front of us, all because we're convinced the real prize is somewhere else. Okay, you might be thinking that's a nice little story, but for Conwell, this was way more than a parable. He saw this as a fundamental pattern in how people behave, and he had real-world examples to back it up. I mean, he tells the story of a guy in California who sold his ranch to go look for gold, only for the new owner to find one of the first major gold strikes right there on the property. Or the farmer in Pennsylvania who sold his land super cheap, not knowing that the scummy creek on his property was sitting on top of a billion-dollar oil field. It's the same story over and over again. Immense wealth was right there, but it was just completely overlooked. But Conwell doesn't just stop at finding opportunity. He takes this whole idea a step further and builds it into a philosophy about wealth itself that was honestly pretty controversial for his time. So first things first, he takes on this huge misconception from the Bible. He points out that people always say money is the root of all evil. But that's not what the text actually says. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. That greedy, obsessive hoarding of it. And that distinction is absolutely critical for everything else he's about to say. So get this. Conwell argues that getting rich through honest, hard work isn't just okay. He says it's your Christian and godly duty. And his logic is pretty straightforward. Money is power. And in the hands of good people, that power can be used to do an incredible amount of good. It builds your churches, funds your missionaries, pays your preachers. For Conwell, making money honestly was a way of preaching. And he just flat out rejected the idea that rich people must be dishonest. He actually claimed that 98 out of 100 wealthy men in America at the time were honest. And he said that's why they were rich. Their honesty was the foundation of their success because people trusted them, and that trust is what built their fortunes. Okay, so let's bring this all home, because in the end, Conwell's final lesson isn't just about finding diamonds or striking oil. It's about something much bigger. It's about the nature of greatness itself. He argues that real success doesn't start with a ton of money. It starts with plain old common sense. The big secret, according to him, is to just look around you, figure out what people in your community genuinely need, and then pour yourself into providing it. At its core, success is about service. And the same exact principle applies to being great. Greatness isn't something you find by holding a fancy title or waiting for some big historic moment to prove yourself. No, he says true greatness is achieved by regular people, doing great things with whatever they have, making a real difference exactly where they are. And that leads us to his final, incredibly powerful call to action. It's a message that's just as relevant today as it was over 100 years ago. Don't wait. Don't wait for a better job, or a different city, or for circumstances to be perfect. If you want to be great, you have to start right where you are with what you have right now. So that really leaves us with just one big question to think about, doesn't it? What opportunities might be lying there in your own backyard? What needs in your own community are just waiting for someone to meet them? Where are your acres of diamonds?